Israeli troops responded to Syrian army mortar fire November 12th by firing tank shells back at the regime's forces, confirming a direct hit. This was the second such incident in which mortar fire from what is widely believed to be the Syrian army resulted in retaliation by the Israeli Defense Forces in the Golan Heights. Despite these escalations, cross-border exchanges between Syria and its neighbors are often unintentional. In the case of Israel, it is even more likely that Syria will exercise heightened restraint and caution in conducting operations near the Golan to avoid drawing Israel into battle, which would greatly complicate the regime's already arduous fight to maintain Syria. Since the Syrian regime's military campaign against rebel forces began nearly 20 months ago, the conflict has steadily intensified and spread to nearly every corner in the country. As a result, the Syrian regime has increasingly begun to conduct operations against rebel elements near its borders with neighboring countries. The first of such incidents began to occur in the northern Syrian border with Turkey near the end of 2011, when Syrian forces began to fire on refugees leaving Syria for Turkey's southern Hatay province. Since that time, cross-border clashes with Turkey have escalated and have led to Turkey responding to Syrian fire with retaliatory strikes and small arms fire. In the case of Turkey, Syria is careful not to draw it into full-scale conflict, but at the same time is not as vigilant in its restraint considering Turkey harbors many Syrian rebels and dissidents. Similar cross-border clashes have also been seen on the Syria-Jordan border. These clashes occur when the Syrian army fires upon army defectors and refugees escaping into Jordan, resulting in Jordanian forces firing back at Syrian troops. Cross-border clashes have also occurred with Syria's neighbors when Syrian troops are conducting operations near these countries. For example, on several occasions, Syrian planes have flown into Iraqi airspace when conducting operations against the rebels on the border and checkpoints. Similarly, stray fire intended for rebel fighters on the Lebanese-Syrian border have resulted in the Syrian army firing into Lebanon. It is important to note that it is difficult at times to ensure that not a single bullet crosses into a neighboring country, especially when operations against the rebels on the border are being conducted. However, the clashes with each respective country need to be evaluated individually based on the relationship between Syria and that country. For example, Turkey and Jordan are quick to respond to Syria's incursions, as both countries are known for having refugee camps in country and allowing defectors, whereas Lebanon is much slower to respond, seeing as there are many elements within Lebanon that support the Syrian regime. Israel, however, has an overarching goal and position in the Syrian conflict, which is to secure its borders and work to mitigate the spillover effect of the conflict. During the course of the unrest in Syria, Israel has tolerated several incidents of cross-border fire into its territory. However, like Jordan and Turkey, there reaches a point where the question of a response becomes an issue of showing Syria that such actions are not tolerated. Because of Israel's imperatives in this conflict, it is very unlikely that Israel would invade Syria because a mortar shell landed in the Golan. However, should there be an escalation of this type of activity by Syria, an intensified response from Israel could be expected, which would greatly complicate the regime's already difficult task of securing Syria. The al-Assad regime is very aware of such a reality, and thus will likely exercise extreme restraint when conducting operations near the Golan in the future to avoid any escalated Israeli response.